Right, we're going to crack straight off because there's lots of politics today, and we're going to talk to the leader of the Liberal Democrats, Sir Ed Davey, who joins us now. And it's very nice to welcome you once again to GB News, Sir Ed. Can we start with the fact that you've been making the news this morning? Because when it comes to the state banquet for Donald Trump next month, you posted on X last night that you were boycotting that banquet, even though it was an honour to be invited by the King. Why?
Well, I've been wrestling with this over the summer with my wife, and indeed praying, because it's a very difficult decision. I've huge respect for His Majesty and have had the honour of going to other state banquets. And I've no problem with people talking to Donald Trump. Indeed, I called for the state banquet to be offered to Donald Trump. But over the summer, we've seen the devastation, humanitarian crisis in Gaza reach new lows. We've seen children starving. We've seen the lifeless bodies of many children. We've seen a famine officially declared in Gaza City. And we've seen the emaciated bodies of the hostages that Hamas outrageously took. This has to end. We need the ceasefire. We need the hostages out. We need the aid in. And there is one man who has the power to do that, and that's Donald Trump. He could pick up the phone today, talk to Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, get him to act and do the right thing. He could also pick up the phone to the Qatari government and the Gulf states and get them to put pressure on Hamas to release the hostages. So what I wanted to do by this decision, which, as I say, was very difficult, was to highlight the fact that Donald Trump, coming to our country, is the one man who can bring an end to all this. And our media, yourselves, and the government and, frankly, the British public need to make that clear to Donald Trump. He has to act to end this humanitarian crisis.
Are you making it clear, though, by staying away from the state banquet? I mean, as a leader of a political party in this country, why would you not use the opportunity to try and persuade Donald Trump, to try and get him to listen to you? I mean, the Conservatives reacting to you boycotting the state banquet, saying it's an act of deep disrespect to the King, and Dame Priti Patel saying that Ed Davey has once again proved he's not a serious leader and more interested in pathetic gesture politics. What do you have to say to that?
Well, I take the Conservatives more seriously if they stood up to Donald Trump and called out Netanyahu over what's happening in Gaza, and they have failed to do so. I've had the honour, Ellie, of going to a number of state banquets in the past, and therefore I have the experience and the reality that you don't get to talk to the head of state, and you don't get to even talk to some of his close entourage. So your ability to make any influence actually at the banquet is nil. But by coming on your programme, going on and talking to other media, writing articles, I think I can raise this subject to make sure that Donald Trump is reminded of his responsibility, is told that the British people want him to act to save the lives of those children and women and innocent civilians who are starving to death in Gaza, and to get those poor hostages out. And, you know, genuinely, he is the one man who can do this.
But forgive me. Forgive me. I mean, I know
doing enough, but I do think that Trump can do more.
I mean, look, maybe he could. Maybe he could do more, but it's a bit simplistic, isn't it? When we know how embedded this problem is, we know how determined Netanyahu and his sort of coalition government is at the moment. The idea that Donald Trump could pick up the phone and just sort this out isn't actually realistic, is it?
It's totally realistic. Anyone who's looked at the situation in the Middle East over many years know it's the US president who has huge power, even more so at the moment, actually. The Netanyahu government is facing a backlash amongst many Israelis who think its strategy threatens the lives of the hostages. So I think there's a real chance for the President of the United States to do the right thing. I'm afraid when I've listened to Donald Trump talking about this and talks about Gaza as a great real estate opportunity, it looks like the reverse. He sometimes says, you know, he regrets the killings. He does nothing about it. And, I've always been pro-American. I see the US as our strongest ally. I believe in talking to people, including Donald Trump. But my chance as the leader of the Liberal Democrats at this moment is to send this message by not going to the banquet. So people like you are debating this, and we can debate it as a country, and we can put pressure on our Prime Minister to make it clear to President Trump on his state visit that this really needs to happen. We're looking at the situation getting even worse. Netanyahu is ordering his army, actually against the advice of his military experts, we're led to believe, into Gaza City, where there are 1 million Palestinians. They're going to be forcefully displaced. The crisis there is going to get worse. We have to act. There is a UN General Assembly going to discuss this later this month. I don't think we can wait. And when Donald Trump is in our country, I think it's incumbent on all of us to make it crystal clear to him that we expect him to act as the one person who could really influence both Netanyahu and the Qatari Gulf states, and through them, Hamas. So that awful terrorist organisation has to release its hostages and has to surrender.
Can I ask you about the Lib Dem stance on the use of asylum hotels? Because the Refugee Council this morning is calling on the Home Secretary to adopt what they're describing as a practical proposal. So they are talking about giving temporary legal status to migrants from 5 countries, those countries being Afghanistan, Eritrea, Iran, Sudan and Syria. So they currently make up about 4 in 10 of people that are housed in asylum hotels. By their calculations, they think by doing this, the Home Office could end the use of asylum hotels by March of next year. What do you think of that as a plan? Is that something you'd be supportive of?
Yeah, I think it's a very good idea. Liberal Democrats have long argued that people waiting months and months for asylum applications, having to be housed in hotels at great expense to the taxpayer, should actually be asked to work. And therefore they, rather than costing us, can actually contribute to our economy and to the exchequer. It seems a sensible approach. Liberal Democrats have long argued that these asylum hotels are a sign of the mistakes of the Conservatives, the failure of the Conservatives over immigration. They, first of all, failed to process asylum applications quickly enough. Indeed, they deliberately created this backlog, which led to the hotels in the first place. The hotels are the Conservatives' fault. And then if we're going to now solve that and prevent that mistake going on and costing us all a fortune, I think things like not just processing the applications more quickly, but getting people to actually work and contribute seems a sensible way forward. It's not the only thing we need to do. We do need a lot of international cooperation. We've got to stop the small boats in the first place. But in terms of dealing with the asylum hotels, this is definitely one way we should look at.
Well, look, we're out of time, so I'm going to get told off. But just very briefly, the problem with that is surely that it's sort of saying it's open arms, isn't it? If you're from Afghanistan, Eritrea, Iran, Sudan, Syria, just come. You're going to be allowed to stay.
No, because it's temporary, and if they fail their asylum application, they'll be deported, as they should be. The truth is, the small boats is a sign of policy failure. The Conservatives to blame. Actually, Nigel Farage is to blame. Before we left the EU, before Brexit, we had a returns agreement with every European country, which meant we could, through the Dublin Convention, automatically return people on small boats. And now that was broken. We don't have that legal power anymore, and the French and others have made it very difficult for us to return these people in small boats. It's got far, far worse. We didn't have this problem before Brexit. So I think Nigel Farage, who's been very vocal, hasn't he, over the summer, should start with an apology, and the Conservatives should apologise. They caused this problem. They have wasted billions of pounds, and all these people are protesting. They should be protesting at Nigel Farage and the Conservatives who caused this chaos. OK, so Ed Davey, it's good to talk to you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's speak now to GBNews political correspondent Catherine Forster, who joins us now. Morning to you, Catherine. You were listening across to that interview. What did you make of what you heard?
Well, interesting. Of course, we know that Ed Davey is very anti-Brexit, very keen for us to go back in the single market, saying Nigel Farage is responsible for some of the small boats crisis. Certainly, Brexit did make it more difficult in that we don't have that agreement under the Dublin Convention. But the reality is that under the whole of the European Union, you're supposed to go back to the country that you first landed in to claim asylum. So it, practically speaking, isn't working in the EU and hasn't worked in the EU for ages. I think on Trump, it's very notable that he is the only leader of a major party that's taken a very tough line on Trump. And of course, he can. The government, we have to work with Donald Trump here. US is our key ally, as Ed Davey did still admit. And the Conservatives, of course, sister party. But Ed Davey has, from the very beginning, been very tough on Trump. And, I think, much as you can say that Donald Trump really isn't going to care if Ed Davey's not at the banquet and probably isn't going to notice, and I think that's true. This is about sending a message, as he said. This is about Ed Davey coming on TV, making news with this announcement, because although the Lib Dems have got 72 MPs, they really struggle to be heard. I mean, Reform have got 4, and we've spent a couple of days talking about everything that Nigel Farage is proposing if Reform get into government. I think the Lib Dems will be happy with this announcement. Yes, they don't want to upset the King, but they think that this is necessary. And I suspect where they are right is where he says that Donald Trump has got the power to influence Netanyahu and make a difference with this. I think he's right, because really, no matter what all these other countries say, no matter what Keir Starmer says, no matter that he's threatening to recognise Palestine as a state, Benjamin Netanyahu, is he really interested in what our Prime Minister says, or lots of other leaders? But Donald Trump, the US, that is a different matter.
Okay.